guilty, I would have got 20 years in jail. So it's sort of fitting, I think, that if I hadn't got the not guilty, I would have the channel would have been no more. So I thought, right, let's change the name over. You know?
Really?
Yes, indeed. So
What
I had
case was that?
massive drug conspiracy. So yeah, real bad one. So there'd been five drivers had been caught and pled guilty prior to my trials. So yeah, it was a real sticky case. My co-defendant just got 18 and a half years and a £3 million confiscation, which he's getting an extra 7 years for. So he ended up with 25 and a half years, which I would have got the same, unfortunately. So I pray he gets some success in his appeal, you know. So tragic, though.
Yeah, my mate Joey Pyle, he got lucky. Joey was locked up, I don't know, 7, 8 months. They had a trial about 4 guys, but they found not guilty.
Thank God. So if people don't know or haven't seen, Ori was actually the first interview I ever did on KRN TV previously. So if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend you go back and see it. And then the second interview I did was actually Joey Pyle Jr., who Ori introduced me to. So 2 fantastic interviews that I highly recommend you go to see it. So yeah, thank God, obviously for my success, and thank God for young Joey's success as well.
Yeah, they were using my name at Joey's trial.
Fucking hell.
Telling that he was involved in international crime with me.
Well, I'd hate to go back to court now with the amount of people that I speak to. They're trying to say that I was part of some international cartel these days. But so you haven't knocked the smoking on the head then?
Holy shit! Yeah, and there was. Did you go? There was a big event over the weekend for Dave Portney.
I didn't go. No, I didn't go to it. Unfortunately, I had to look after my little boy. But I saw it. That was on Friday or Saturday, wasn't it? A few of my friends went to it. I saw Joey was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, tragic what happened to Dave Courtney. So yeah, rest in peace to Dave Courtney. But so how's things with you generally, Ori? Are you well?
I'm great.
Yeah, in
I
good
don't
health.
know how the fuck I do it. I'm no good.
Fantastic.
My health is good. God bless.
Well, long may it continue. And I see since last time, it's good to see that you started a YouTube channel now. So tell the people what the YouTube channel is called, Ori.
Yeah, it's Stories with Ori. It's like a variety show. I'm not doing a lot of that gangster shit because most of the gangsters on YouTube are rats, or you call them over there grasses. Okay, and you know, my opinion of that situation is that these rats, with all their followers, are making other rats. They're telling these kids who are following them that it's okay to be a grass. You follow me? If you look, there's only, I think, of the gangsters here in the United States, the only 2 that are not rats is me and Joey Merlino. All the others are rats.
It's absolutely insane. Thank God we haven't got to the stage of that in this country, because in America they're unashamed of it as well. That they are almost proud of being rats and screaming it from the rooftops. You don't get that in this country. No one's come out of the hiding. They're all disappeared into the shadows. Thank God, where they deserve to be underneath a rock or under a bridge. You know,
right?
But it's absolutely insane.
And that's why, if you hear me, I always have the utmost respect for the gangsters over there in London.
Absolutely. So today, like I said before previously, we went through your story in depth. So today I want to sort of throw a few names at you and talk about your relationship with them. But before we start, obviously people first, the link for Ori's YouTube channel will be in the description, and also the link for Ori's book, The Accidental Gangster, will be in the description as well. So please go over and support Ori and get the book. Well worth it. Fantastic read. But for people who don't know, you were a very successful businessman in the insurance business. So how did someone who was a successful businessman, end up falling into crime, and not just minor crime, into serious organized crime, and end up getting convicted in the Mafia RICO indictment in 2008. How does something like that happen, Ori?
Well, and actually, my first indictment was in the insurance business in 19, was out of Syracuse Federal Court, 1979. Okay. And they tried to make that an organized crime case based upon the fact that I was friends with Meyer Lansky and Sonny Franzese. But there was no way that was an organized crime case. And more than likely, if I was not affiliated with Sonny Franzese, that indictment might have never happened. Should have never happened. But it did. And I ended up getting 5 years probation on that one. So
Jesus. So one of my next
that
questions,
was my first federal indictment.
yeah, so I was going to ask, obviously, how you got introduced to Sonny, and I thought it would have been a little bit later, but your relationship with Sonny went all the way back to the 70s, did it? So you end up having a 40-year relationship with him.
Correct. Correct. And how it began, and it's in my book, okay? It's in my book, The Accidental Gangster, which is available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or autographed copies on my website. What happened was I was involved with a company called Polyglycol, with a gentleman who owned it named Walter Fison out of Scarsdale, New York. Walter was no need to ever sign your car again, guaranteed for 3 weeks, for 3 years, sold at automobile dealers. And Walter would have warranties. Now his warranties were getting stolen on the bottom of the pack. And he put his brother-in-law, who happened to be the brother-in-law also of Michael Franzese, he gave him Nassau County and New York, Long Island. And they were stealing it and using a different product. And Walter found out about it. And then Walter started getting death threats. So he came to me, and I contacted my friend Frank Russo, who put me with Lou Perry. Lou Perry was a casting director in New York, and he's the guy who discovered Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis and gave them their start. And he called me up. He says, I'm picking you up at 7 o'clock. He picked me up and brought me to a restaurant on 2nd Avenue, Trattoria Siciliana. And this is where I met, for the first time, Sonny Franzese. And he was there with his wife, Tina, his daughter, Tina, his daughter, Gia, and his son, Johnny. And I sat next to him. And if you read my book, I'm allergic to certain fishes out of certain water. And anyway, I explained to Sonny what the problem was. He said he would look into it. I gave him my phone number in upstate New York to my office and my phone number to my condo in Florida, where I was staying at the time. And then I got word that I had to go into New York. He found out. And there was a sit down at the Russian tea room. Me, Walter, Lou Perry, Frank Russo, Sonny sat directly across from me. And next to him was Michael Franzese. You know Michael, correct?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was my first sit down. And during the sit down, I said something to Sonny, but he gave me the coldest fucking looking you ever could see. I mean, if looks could kill, I was dead. And he says, don't think for one moment, I don't understand what's going on here. He says, you're young. I'm going to forget this. And he sided with us. We were right. He sided with us. And, you know, both parties went away happy. But when we walked outside the Russian tea room, that's when Sonny grabbed me and walked me to the corner of Broadway and 57 and said, kid, I like you. You got boss. He said, from now on, you're with me. And I want you and your family and my own for Christmas. And that began a relationship of over 50 years until he died. I was talking to Sonny right up to 3 days before his death. And I was the one who announced his death.
Fair play. Sonny is an absolute legend. Sonny is a legend. And I wish I'd had the chance to speak to him or meet him or even know him like yourself.
Yeah.
And so talk to us about what it was like dealing with someone like Sonny Franzese. Was he a gentleman to deal with? Was he fair? Was he a bully? Was he intimidating? Was he trying to put the squeeze on it? Obviously, you said it was a 50-year friendship.
Sonny was fair, very smart. Don't think somebody like him is stupid. He's very intelligent. He could decipher right from wrong and make that judgment. And, you know, it's one of the things that made him who he is. And there used to be a rumor, you ever had to go to a sit down, you want to be with Sonny Franzese because you're going to win. But I had a good relationship with him. I mean, you know, when I went to New York, Sonny lived with me at my hotel. That went on for a few years. And just so happened, every time he got off, Sonny was violated more than anybody else ever in the federal system here in the United States. And every time he got out of prison, I was in New York. So yeah, we were close, and we ended up getting indicted together.
Crazy. Yeah, no, what they did to him, the way they framed him and the way they kept recalling him was just disgrace. He didn't do himself any favors, obviously, by constantly associated with criminals and stuff like this when he came out, but he shouldn't have been in that predicament in the first place. And that's what he was. So how was he not going to associate with them when he'd been brought up with them all his life?
I'm just another man, that's all. I ain't looking for no glory. I ain't looking for no credit.
What'd you do after the Army?
Same thing. I went on the street. Who's that? Hey, honey. Well, I had a little money. I won gambling in the Army. I took it home and I started buying businesses, you know. Then they opened up a club, another club, and I started making big money.
So I know that Sonny had a lot of business interests. And obviously over the last few years, it's like Michael, his son's got the term of being like the highest earning mafia figure ever. Do you think that he inherited a lot of his financial interests from Sonny? Obviously, while Sonny was away, obviously for 90% of the time, wasn't he? Do you think Michael inherited a lot of his stuff and his success from Sonny?
Oh yeah, definitely. He had to learn a lot from Sonny. Michael is a very intelligent guy, and I got to say that for him. He's very intelligent, and he knows how to make money.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Michael doesn't seem like your average wise guy or criminal figure. He's university educated, and he does seem very shrewd, and he comes across very well. Even when he's saying something that isn't true, Michael comes across in such a convincing way in order to turn you, you know?
Well, Michael and I had a big feud. I don't know if you're aware of that.
He's living his father's life. He's very jealous of his father. He hasn't seen Sonny in a year. He proclaims he's there all the time. He claims I use his fucking name. You think I'm going to use a rat's name? And you show me anybody that calls somebody else a rat, they're the rat.
I'm glad he came out with some lies about me.
I don't like Ori. I'm going to tell you a story about Ori. I never heard of him until I came out to California and my brother started hanging out with him. And I know they were doing some drug stuff together, so I chased Ori. That's number one. Secondly, I had somebody in the FBI who came to me and told me, don't go near this guy, Ori, because he plays both sides of the street. He's an informant.
And I had a lot of truth about him. I knew a lot. And, but, we started that war. And then I said, I got nothing to gain from this thing. Nobody's paying me any money. What the fuck do I got to gain? And I ended it. Because, I'm at the point in my life, if I don't need a battle with somebody, I'm not going. If I have to have a battle, I'll definitely go to battle. No question about it. But, we ended it. Michael and I, we talk occasionally. He's getting ready. He's doing a tour again over there in England, beginning next month.
Yeah, indeed. I'm actually going to go to one of them. Sean Atwood, who I introduced you to, sent me a couple of tickets. So I will be going to that next month. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Michael. I think he comes across fantastically. His YouTube channel is very professional. There's only one thing that I sort of disagree with Michael on. It's the cooperation sort of stuff. That I think that he's better just to leave it and just to agree, yeah, I did cooperate, rather than talking about the semantics of it. No one did this time, no one did this time. I don't know what the situation is in America, but in England, it's a black and white subject. You either cooperate or you don't. It doesn't matter if people got 1,000 years or people got no time. If you sat down with the other side.
Okay, so in England, what would you folks think of Michael?
That would definitely be a cooperator, to put it politely, or a snitch or a rat, as they would say.
He would definitely be a grace, because
Absolutely.
he did. He proffered. People don't understand what proffering is, and then being on a witness stand pointing the finger. Michael actually did both. He's got his own story about what happened with Norby Walter, but it's a matter of public record. He was on a witness stand testifying against him. Joey and I are thinking of putting together a one-time event and a big event over in London, and having guys like Freddie Foreman and other older gangsters who are alive, that Joey's good friends with all of them, and I know almost all of them. And a one-time event. And we've been discussing that there. It's in talking terms at this point. But the only way I would come to England would be, I'm not a guy, I'm not going out there and do 10 different things. I'm getting too old for that, and not enough money in it anyway.
Of course, you definitely should come over, and it'd be great to meet you face to face. And I'd support you in whatever way you could do.
Yeah, I'd like to meet
like
you. I'd like to meet Sean.
And real quickly, one of my questions was going to be, how did you end up, obviously, for people that don't know, you ended up becoming great friends with Joey Pyle Sr., who was sort of the reputed boss of the London underworld for decades upon decades, and real serious man, a real gentleman at the same time, and a top businessman. How did you become, were you introduced to Joey, and how did you become such good friends with him, Ori?
I met Joey through Danny Sims. Danny Sims and Joey were managing Mark Morrison. Now, Danny Sims is the guy that discovered Bob Marley. He was big in the record business and very well known. When he was in London, he was under Joey. When he was here in California, he was under me. And when he was in New York, he was under Joe Piney of the Gambino family. And they had a record deal with Warner Brothers for Mark Morrison. And they sent him here to Los Angeles and asked me to watch over him and make sure that he went to the studio when he was supposed to be gone. And we did. And I had my son watch over Mark and be with him. You know, they're roughly the same age. And Joey and I, we hit it off like brothers. And next thing you know, Joey and I were on the phone 5, 6 times a day. He would call me up. He'd be in a pub, and he put every guy in the pub on the phone with me. And then I finally started going over there. And I mean, Joey and I, we were this close. Anything that he needed out here in this country, I would handle for him. Anything I needed elsewhere, Joey could handle for me. And right up until his death, Joey and I were closer than brothers. And his son, Joey Jr., is like my third son. That's how close I am with Joey Jr. And now I'm close with his children. So, you know, it's fantastic. Just something that, you know, there's no better people. And I met a lot of gangsters all over the world. There is no better people than Joey Pyle Jr., in my opinion. These are real men of men. And I can't say enough about you guys, all you guys in England. And if you hear a lot of my other interviews I do, I speak more highly of the guys in England than I do of the guys in this country. And particularly because you guys, how you handle rats, you know. In this country, they began with the WITSEC program, and now these guys don't even go on the WITSEC program. They go on a witness stand, they testify against you and 20 other people, and they still live in the same place in the neighborhood, and nothing happens to them. And, you know, it was not like that back before the 60s. Somebody was a government informant.
Of course. I mean, people wouldn't believe the day that someone like Sammy the Bull Gravano, if they heard in his heyday that this guy was going to be on the internet, obviously it wasn't around at the time, on TV, trying to become a celebrity and all this sort of stuff, and he grasped on John Gotti. You can't make this stuff up. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Right.
So going back slightly to, obviously Michael made some accusations, obviously, that you were involved in the drug business and that you were supplying John Franzese. But how was your relationship with John? Did you have a personal relationship with him? And obviously, what's your response?
That is total bullshit. All right, I'm the guy that kept drug dealers away from John. I'm the guy that bailed John out of prison, out of jail out here. John was a junkie. I could tell you stories of John with a fucking needle in his arm on my bathroom floor. Okay? I could tell you a story of in Brooklyn where Frankie Campy found him in these dope houses. Terrible. All right, for Michael to say that, and Michael knows he was wrong. Okay? His brother was a junkie way before he met me.
Of course. I mean, I only watched that. Is it a Newsstand documentary? I watched it. I only watched it this week, actually, and I thought it was a fantastic documentary on Sonny Franzese that you featured in. Obviously, it was based on John and Michael, and I thought that was a great documentary there. And obviously, for people who don't know,
the one they did on Newsday?
Yeah, Newsday.
Huh?
And yeah, for people that don't know, John ended up wearing a wire on his dad, Sonny Franzese, while he was driving him around for a year or two, which is terrible, you know, obviously.
Yeah, he wore a wire against me.
Crazy.
were against me. Yeah.
So John, when he was wearing a wire against you, he didn't manage to get you caught up in anything, thank God.
Well, he's one of the reasons I got indicted too.
Oh, Jesus. So that was part of some of the main evidence on
I
your...
heard those things. Johnny had no reason in the world to become an informant. He became sober. I'm the guy that first found out that Johnny was an informant. What happened was Johnny is sobered up. Now, if I was a guy selling drugs to Johnny, would Johnny invite me to his first anniversary when they get those buttons or whatever they call them at sober living places?
No.
I was the one he invited, me and my son. And we went. Okay? And he said, I'm so happy. My uncle and my cousin are here. Hopefully, I'm allowed in his home again. And he was. Okay? He was sober. But then, Sonny called me up and asked me to check out a car that Johnny was buying for somebody in the program. And I called Johnny. He said, yeah. He said, I'll bring the car over. I'll be there tomorrow. The next day, I'm waiting. And he tells me, look, I had to come to Pasadena to pick the car up. I'm staying here overnight, Uncle. I'll be at your place tomorrow morning with the car. Next morning, no Johnny. I'm calling. His voicemail was full. Sonny and his mother, Tina, were calling. They're calling me. The only thing we could think of is Johnny fell off the wagon. All right? And normally when he would do that, he'd be knocking on my door looking for $40. But that didn't happen. So Sonny called me and asked me to come back to New York. I went back. He picked me up. We went to the Warwick. He stayed at the Warwick with me. We had a meeting with other guys that came to my suite at the Warwick. I only flew in for a couple of days. When I was leaving, me and Sonny were standing in front of the hotel, waiting for Sonny's driver to come pick him, waiting for my car to take me to the airport. I told Sonny, I got a good private investigator. Let me pay him a few bucks, see if they can find Johnny. He said, nah. He said, let me think about it. He said, it's probably going to be a waste of money. Now his car comes, my car comes, I go to the airport. I check in at Kennedy Airport. I go up, and I always try to go into the men's room and have a cigarette before my flight. Now I go in the men's room. I come out, boom, 2 guys, young guys. Ori, I go, yeah. My first thought, there might be friends of my son's, and I'm on the same flight as them. Then they pull out their badges, FBI. We want to talk to you. They said, you can stop looking for Johnny. He's with us. I said, well, that's good to know. I said, I'm going to have to call his mother and father and let them know where their son is. They said, we prefer you not to. I said, well, I'm going to. And they said, Ori, we're going to give you, this is your last chance to come work with us. Otherwise, this is going to be your last flight on a commercial airline. I said, go fuck yourself. I'm not working for you. I went to the payphone. I called Tina and Sonny, let them know that their son was working for the FBI. I'm the one who found that information, relayed it to Sonny and Johnny's mother, Tina. And the FBI were correct. That was my last commercial air flight. The next time I was on Con Air, being brought back to Brooklyn. Being indicted.
Terrible. And so did you know from that first moment, did you think you'd said enough compromising stuff with Johnny that you knew that you were going to end up going to jail with them? Or did you think that they were just trying to scare you at the time? Did you realize how serious it was at the time?
Well, what we did find out that Johnny was actually an informant back here in Los Angeles for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and he was wearing wire on me. We found that out during my case in Brooklyn. So Johnny had been an informant for a long time, which happens with a lot of junkies because they get money from the FBI.
And this is why you just can't have them around you. Anyone who's got a drug problem is, they talk about the weakest link in the chain, and the people with the drug problem is certainly that. So, yeah, if anyone who's got wrapped around.
That's right. At trial, when Johnny was on the stand, U.S. Attorney asked him, who are some of your father's friends? The very first name he comes out with, he says, Ori Spado has been friends with my father for over 35 years. What does Ori Spado do? Ori Spado is a drug dealer, which is bullshit. I did deal marijuana. I had 500 pounds every 2 weeks, flown from Arizona to New York. Okay,
that's a good thing.
I admit that. Huh? I admit that, marijuana. Yeah. But anyways, when he gets cross-examined, the attorney says, you said Mr. Spado was only a drug dealer and never did anything else in his life. Yeah, that's correct. What about the time Mr. Spado sold insurance? Oh, I forgot about that. What about Mr. Spado when he provided all the entertainment to the Queen Mary? Oh, I forgot about that. It's a matter of record. I got the court transcripts. What about when Mr. Spado was working with Andrea Bocelli? He said, Ori knew Andrea Bocelli. He never told me. I would have loved to meet Andrea. That's the testimony that he gave in court.
Yeah, so he was terrible on the stand, as you'd expect, completely unreputable. But
he was terrible on the stand, and I never felt comfortable around it because of the fact that he was a junkie. So I never divulged much information to him about anything that I was doing.
Indeed. Well, thank God. And so what sentence was it that you actually got, Ori? And what age were you at that point? Is it 2008 or 2009 you got convicted, I guess?
2008, I was 63 years old. I got 5 years. They gave me 5 years for a 924C gun charge. Minimum mandatory sentencing. Okay? The only way to break a minimum mandatory sentencing is by becoming an informant, which obviously I did not. So I did my 62 months, and I got out at the age of 68 years old.
Fair play to you, taking it like a man.
That's 11 years ago.
And how difficult must it be going to jail? Obviously, it's tough at the best of times, but go to jail in your 60s for a sentence like that, which is just way over the top. And I'm sure it would have been months if it wasn't caught up with these mafia figures and trying to.
I got to tell you something. It probably kept me alive. I was walking the yard 7 miles a day. and I got in shape. Somebody asked me, "Oh, you look good." I said, "Doing time in prison helps you."
Of course. And so it wasn't tough time then. You didn't have any real bad times in there. Nothing bad happened. No violence, no fights or anything like this.
No, I was well respected in prison. I was in general population at all times. And because I was not a rat, I was respected.
Of course, you're a
And I had
stand-up man.
zero problem. When people had problems in prison, they came to me.
And Sonny, was he was on the same case as you, and he got convicted as well in the same case?
Yeah, Sonny got convicted.
I was a bad guy.
Not then.
Yeah. My mother said I was bad since I was born. She said I was bad when I was in her stomach.
Yeah, he went to Devon, Massachusetts, to a medical facility.
And did you make any good friends while you were in prison? Weren't you inside with Charles Carniglia at a certain point, who's obviously, for people who don't know, was...
Charles Carniglia and I became very close at MDC Brooklyn. And he writes me occasionally. He's got a life sentence. He's in Canaan, Pennsylvania. He writes me, and once in a while he'll call me. Try to do some things to try to help him. But there's really not much we could do on that case.
Yeah, no, shout out to Charles Carniglia, take it like a man. And again, it was the informants that put him away, wasn't it, for all that time?
He had fucking so many informants. I think that they had 97 informants ready to testify against Charles Carniglia. 97.
It's absolutely insane. It's just so rife, this informant stuff. It's just, for anyone who's considering getting into the life of crime, it's not about how staunch you are. The people around you are going to snitch on you. Don't do it. Just go down the legit route. You're going to have a much easier, better life. There's no fast track to get money. And if there is,
this is what I try to teach the young, to stay out of life of crime. We live in a different world today. Everybody's got a camera. You know, back in the day, when we were together in the old day, if somebody had a camera, we left the room, because more than likely it was law enforcement.
Yeah, of course.
Now today, everybody's got a camera. They got them on the corner, every store. No matter where you go, your picture's being taken. How are you going to get away with anything today?
Of course.
You're not.
And so earlier you mentioned, obviously, being in LA and being in the show business, you had a lot of dealings with some infamous and famous characters. One of them you end up having dealings with was Suge Knight. Talk to me about how you met Suge Knight and your dealings with Suge, and how was he?
I met Suge. How did I? It's really funny. There was a guy in the music business out of London named Ron Winters. He was pretty big. And Suge had given him the rights to distribute Death Row in England. And I met Ron Winters through Joey Pyle on a different situation. He supposedly, I had a bunch of, in those days, video VHS, okay? And he wanted to buy them. It was like $250,000. And I wire you the money. Here's he would give you a fucking, the numbers you need to prove he wired the money. But he never fucking wired it. He was a master at it. And I was going to kill this fucker. And I find out through a producer that he's in town. And when he would come in town, he never checked in the hotel under his name. He used a different name. So my friend had a meeting with him at the Beverly Hills. I said, I'm going to be at the bar. I said, when you have your meeting, come down to the bar, tell me what room. I'm going to go up and throw that fucker out of his window. When the producer gets up to the room, Ron Winters is having a meeting with Suge Knight. So he tells Suge who I am, and then I'm downstairs. I want to throw this guy out the window. Suge comes down and introduces himself to me. And that's how we met. And he asked me, he said, please. He said, this guy owes me a lot of money. He said, you and I will make money, more money than what's involved over here. Please don't go throw him out the window. I said, okay. So Shug and I, at that point, we became friends. We would see each other. We meet at the Four Seasons a lot. We both hung out there. And then he was not getting his money from Ron Winters. He called me. So Joey, I called Joey. Joey sent some guys over there. And we made a deal. We got the first we got $1 million from Ron Winters. When we got it, Suge was back in prison. But the money was wired to Suge. And the next day he called his lawyer and sent our commission, and I sent half to London right away. Now, Joey and my son were supposedly put on the visit, Joey Jr. Joey Jr. flew here to visit so he could visit Suge in prison because we could have continuously got money. Suge's office tells me they put him on the visiting list. So I was in New York at the time. Joey Jr. flies in. He's with my son. They had to fly someplace up in Northern California, then rent a car and drive way off to this fucking prison. And guess what? When they get there, they're not on the visiting list.
Fuck's sake.
So, but Sugar and I, we remained friends, and you know.
And how were your dealings with Suge then? Was he a gentleman, or because he gets a reputation of being a terrible bully? But you didn't have any of those issues with him. Like I said, your first business dealing with him was very pleasant.
Never. There was a lot of respect he had. You know, Suge was a sharp guy in that respect that he understood the life and respect and honor and loyalty. He understands those things. But then he doesn't understand that a lot of the things that he did created this reason why he's back in prison.
Of course. Well, shout out to Suge Knight. He's a real fucking legend in his lifetime. And I hope that he can somehow fix his situation, or at least make it slightly better, and end up seeing some of his life out of jail, because it doesn't look great at the moment.
Right.
From where I'm sitting. And someone else who's infamous in the hip hop world was Haitian Jack. And you end up getting to know Haitian, and even more than that, you end up having Haitian Jack live with you for a year. So you must have been incredibly close to him.
Year, he slept on my couch. And extorted money from Wyclef John, Akon, and other people in the music business. That was his start of claim. That was his fame to claim.
Well, fair play to him. He did well to do that. And in terms of your relationship with him, obviously you must be benefiting in some way to allow him to stay on your couch for a year.
I introduced Jack to a lot of the guys out here in California. And when it came down to Jack, I chased Jack. Okay? Jack went out, made a big score, didn't take care of me. And I told him to go fuck himself. And by that time, he had an apartment upstairs of me. I told him, Only one gangster is in Beverly Hills. I said, it's not you. I said, it's me. I want you out of this fucking building tomorrow morning. Next morning, there was a U-Haul, and he moved out. And obviously, everybody knows that Jack was a rat. It's true. And all the guys, I introduced the guys in California, and they called me and said, hey, how come you introduced this guy? I didn't know he was a rat. But, you know, these people, some of them still dealing with him. He's in the Dominican Republic. And I'm sure some of these recording artists are still sending them money. He said he was going to come here and kill me.
Still waiting.
So I'm waiting for him to come kill me.
Yeah, but obviously before things turned bad, for him to be staying with you for a year, you must have been close with him. And I mean, Jack's a very good talker. And like you said, he was extorting a lot of people, which requires a lot of skill in certain sense. You were close to him for a given
Jack,
period.
You're correct. Jack was a very good talker, very fast talker. He was a good looking boy. But you know, eventually everybody found out what he really is. The last time I talked to him, he tried to tell me it wasn't him. They were talking to a reporter in New York. And somewhere online. And Jack tried to say, no, it wasn't me, it was Jimmy Henchman. He would try to blame Jimmy Henchman. When in fact, things, you know, that other guys did, like this here, Jack would take credit. That's where the fear. Jack, I doubt, has ever done a piece of work in his life.
Well, like you said, he's a very slick talker. And another thing that he tries to take the credit for, that I believe that it was you that sort of rectified the situation, was the Naomi Campbell stalker situation. Tell us the story there, and whether it was you or Jack that sorted the situation, and what the story was.
What happened was, Wyclef was good friends with Naomi Campbell. He called me up and told me she was being stalked, and if I would help her. Gave me her phone number. And she happened to live behind the Beverly Hills Hotel. It was Christmas time. I had a date. I was early. So I went over to her house. Naomi was having a Christmas party. She greeted me at the door. We went in her office. She gave me what little information she had about the stalker. I had to find the stalker. That's the hard part, finding him. But I did. And I found him in Long Island, New York. And I sent 2 guys there. When they knocked on the door, the guy opened the door, they went right through. They sat him down in a chair and got me on the phone with him. And I had a talk with him. I said, listen to me. If you ever even think of Naomi at all, I said, take a look at those 2 gentlemen there. They're being nice to you today. The next time you see them, they will be the last faces on earth that you will see. I said, do we have an understanding? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I took care of it. I called Wyclef. I said, Don, I took care of it. Guy's not going to bother her no more. Jack's sitting on my couch. He moves to the dining room table. I'm watching all this. He calls Naomi and tells her he took care of it. And that's the only reason why I even mentioned her name in my book.
Yeah, like you said, he's a slick operator. He likes to take the credit for other people. And someone you just mentioned there, who's another real infamous person in the hip hop world, is Jimmy Henchman. Like you said, how did you know Jimmy? What were your dealings with with Jimmy, and yeah, talk to us about Jimmy in general.
Yeah, there was a story that Jack didn't know the hotel, the area in New York, and what business I was doing in New York. Okay? Jimmy Henchman did, because Jimmy came to my hotel all the time when I got in New York. Jimmy and I would have dinner. He'd come to my hotel with his brother. You know, we were friends. Yeah, Jimmy's the real deal.
And he's another one like
And,
Shug, who's obviously in a bad predicament at the moment. But in terms of your dealings with Jimmy, proper businessman, obviously he became very successful. It's tragic what's happened.
Yeah. He's got life also. It's terrible what happened to these guys, but you know, that's part of the deal. You know what I mean? You get caught, you're gonna do time.
Of course, it's a tragic.
Jack was talking, he had the part in New York, he had the hotel wrong, and saying that there was like a shootout on the corner. There was no shootout. People like Jack, there's people out there that like him, people that fear him. He's in the Dominican Republic, where he'll spend the rest of his life.
I've seen. And so another infamous figure, like you said, you know lots of infamous figures, and you recently even had them on your podcast on the YouTube channel, which is Rick Ross. And we're not talking about the rapper, we're talking about the real Rick Ross you had on your YouTube channel.
Oh, Freeway, yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah. Freeway Ricky Ross is the real deal. He's a great guy. I actually met him through his good friend Monty while I was in Lompo. And it was something about a movie deal. And Monty asked me if I would talk to Ricky. I put Ricky's phone number on my list, got permission. I was able to call him. And Ricky and I were talking at that point. And then when I got out of prison, Ricky come over here. And, you know, we've been together several times. I just interviewed him. And he and I will be doing some other things together. That's in the work. We're going to be doing some events together here in California.
Fair play. He's another, you know, so many legends. Like I said, the Sonny Franzese, the Jimmy Henchman, even the Haitian Jack might be for the wrong reasons. But for people who don't know, in England, the real Rick Ross, forget the rapper. If you've seen Snowfall recently, this is based on the real Rick Ross's story. He was the guy he was a real cocaine kingpin. And this was during the Iran-Contra, all that sort of stuff. Insane story. And so I recommend going over to Ori's channel to watch that. And another fantastic story you've got, Ori, that, like you said earlier, you're involved in the weed trade. So shout out to you. I'm a big advocate of the weed in any way. So well done for pushing so much weed. And at a certain point, you ended up having a deal that sort of went wrong with one of the Mexican cartels. Talk to us about what went wrong and how you got involved with them, and you're on the phone. Talk to us about what happened.
Oh, boy,
there.
you got a good memory on that one, man. Yeah, you remember that one, huh? Yeah. What happened was I got word that there was 3,500 pounds of weed in a warehouse in the Bronx. What happened, when it crossed the border in Texas, the truck that brought the stuff to Chicago brought the wrong one to Chicago and sent the one that was supposed to go to Chicago, which was a lower end wheel. They sent it to the guy in Bronx who wanted a higher end weed. And the guy would not release it from the warehouse unless you took it off. He would not give you a sample. So I had a couple guys, I'll never forget the day. I waited in the park in Brooklyn. I rented them a truck. They went to the Bronx, they picked it up. And then they drove, and then we parked, went to the Holiday Inn at Kennedy Airport, parked the truck, and then we found a gal, who was the wife of another famous recording artist, she was divorced from him. And we used her garage out in Long Island. And when we cut through, that fucking weed was starting to rot. That's how long it was sitting in that warehouse. So it was not worth, these guys are trying to tell me that they wanted $550 a pound, when in fact it was not worth $100 a pound. You had to cut the mold off, you had to do a lot of work. And, you know, and when the Mexican brought it in, the driver, the truck driver who brought it, they were still with their fucking truck in New Jersey. And they're outside my hotel room every day. Not my room, out on the street corner. Over there on 54th and 6th in New York. Watch them every move. And their boss was going to kill them. So I met him at Proctor Park. I told the Mexican driver, meet me back. I want to talk to your boss. And it was a cartel leader. Because they were threatening to kill the fucking driver. Blame it on the driver. It was not the driver's fault. I told the guy basically, I said, look it. I said, you want to kill me? Come and try. I said, I'll cut off your fucking balls. I don't care who you are or anything. Well, he had a son who had his own crew of Mexicans, and they did come after me. But I took care of that situation too. And they finally understood. I did give them some money, nowhere near what they expected. I set that up perfectly because I got them to a place over at Columbus Circle in New York, high-end hotel that had a Chinese restaurant like up on the 40th floor. You could not get a gun in there. Could not get past security. So I had a guy just where I wanted him. And, you know, we settled the dispute.
And obviously you must have, as much as they weren't happy with what they got, it must have been settled amicably, because obviously you're still here today and obviously nothing's happened. So it did end up getting sorted and settled.
Right. It got, yeah, it took some doing. But, you know, when I explained to him, here's the deal. This is what happened. It was not the driver's fault. Not my fault. You give me shit weed. If it was good weed, you would have gotten the $500 a pound. I'll give you $100 a pound. You happy with it?
And so I can imagine you did quite well off that deal.
Very well.
Yeah. And did you ever find out which cartel it was you were dealing with?
Huh?
Did you know which? No. And talking about another very dangerous situation you're in at a certain point. Obviously, you mentioned that you and Sonny had 40, 50-year friendship, but at a certain point, things soured slightly, and it's alleged that did Sonny put a hit on you? Is that true, or what's the truth behind that situation?
He approved the hit on me. He approved the hit on me. How that happened was, and this is what eventually hurt Sonny Franzese in the latter years of his life. You know, when they made him the underboss the last time of the Colombo family, his son came to me, Johnny. I flew to New York and tried to talk Sonny out of it. He's 90-something years old. I said, well, why are you taking this fucking job again? You don't need it. Don't do it, you're going to get in trouble. No, buddy, it's good for us. Well, he took it. And then the number one guy he's got is a guy named Gaetano Furtado. Guy Furtado. If Sonny would have done any checking, he would have found out that this guy was a fucking rat for the Drug Enforcement Agency before going over to the FBI. And Sonny was going to propose this guy, told him who everybody and all the families is. Over 500 recordings. This is the guy that hurt Sonny more than his son. You know, his son, because it's his son, he gets the recognition, Johnny. But Guy Furtado hurt him more. I heard all the tapes as part of our discovery. And Guy Furtado, Sonny wanted me to meet him. He was sitting on my couch at the same time that a Jamaican boy who was big in the weed business and coke business got arrested. He had $500,000 on the streets in Brooklyn. I knew the guys who owed the money. We picked up some of it. They weren't out to fuck them. It just taking them longer to sell it because we were turning it into crack. And this informant, you know, Ricky's wife came here with the two Mexicans. And the informant starts making a deal with him. And he says he wants 50 kilos every 2 weeks. These guys are not going to get nothing on the cuff. There's no deal. But he sets it all up. There was no deal. He set nothing up. But when he went back to New York, he's talking to the acting captain, Michael Carabano, telling him all the money they're going to make with Ori on this big cocaine deal every 2 weeks. Now he's pumping Michael with all the money they're going to make. Now Michael's not seeing no money. He starts asking him what's going on with the deal, going on. And finally, Furtado said, Ori must have done the deal and he's fucking us out of the money. You got to remember, Michael and I never said one word to each other about this deal because there was no deal. But the two guys that got indicted for cocaine conspiracy was Michael and me because Guy Furtado had us both on tape. And when, you know, Furtado says Ori probably did the deal, fucked us out of the money, Michael went to Sonny to get permission to whack me, and Sonny gives it to him. And that's what I was pissed off about Sonny. Because everything else, Sonny would call me up, all right, or send word, I need to meet you, come to New York and have dinner, okay? And I would fly in. He didn't come to me and ask. If he would have asked me, we never would have gotten fucking indicted.
Of course. And you know, this old rumor about the Mafia not being involved in drugs, because obviously in years gone by, 20, 30 years ago, you might have been killed for been doing a drug deal, but now the problem was you weren't giving some of the profits from the deal. So the Mafia in sort of 10, 20 years ago, they had no qualms about being involved in drugs then.
You know, that is so much bullshit. Yes, there is a rule that you're not supposed to deal drugs. But who started the fucking thing? Who started it with a heroin? It was Joe Bonanno who brought Carmen Galante to Sicily. And they controlled all the heroin coming into this country. It was started by the bosses.
Of course. They probably did it to get rid of competition. They had it all to themselves.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, you mentioned, obviously, thank God you managed to rectify that situation. But do you think that Sonny was in the life way too long and ended up hurting a lot of people where obviously when you're in your 90s, you can't expect to have the same sharpness that you had earlier in your life? And obviously he had John driving for him, who was a junkie, and even Michael could see this. Like he said, he's the last person you'd have driving for you. and he sort of was the architect of his own downfall in the end. Sonny was.
Yeah. You know, there were times when Johnny was disappeared that, you know, Michael and I were looking for him. You know, Michael and I would hook up together and look for Johnny when Johnny was out here. Michael did try to help his brother, as I try to help Johnny. It just didn't no good. He was a junkie. But he did get sober. And I never sold him any fucking drugs. Michael knew that. But yet he said it. Wherever it derived from, it was wrong. We settled that. Michael also said, I never knew his father. But if you go to Stories with Ori, okay, there is, and it's a short one, listen to it. Michael was on Twitter with Grant Cardone, with over 6,000 people in the room. Over 6,000. I must have got 100 texts of people asking me to come in. Now, if you know about Twitter audio, you could only have 12 people on stage. Only 12 people could be talking, okay? I went in, they brought me up on stage right away. I told Michael, you're doing a good job. Michael, it's good to see you. And Michael come out, he said, yo, Ori, great to see you. Thank you for coming in. Tells everybody, Ori's been friends with the family for a long time, knew my father very well.
Of course.
So, you know, from one thing he says to another thing he says in front of 6,000 people. But people could listen to it. It's on Story with Ori. It's one of my things that I got posted there, as well as Freeway Ricky Ross. And I just did Cato Caitlin from the O.J. Simpson case, and that will be released in another week or two. So, you know, I still got a lot of interviews I've done, and my show is a lot different. You're not going to hear all gangster stuff all the time, and I'm not having other gangsters on the show unless it's a gangster that comes from England, and I'll bring them in the studio. But as far as the gangsters here, no.
Yeah, fair play to you. And what's the current state of the Mafia, especially in New York, say with the 5 families? Are they dead? Is it still going? Are they involved? What would you say? Or obviously you might not.
It will never be or go back to what it used to be. Okay? Law enforcement has just they're just too good. They got all the time, all the money, and all the manpower. And, you know, they're not in control of the unions and things that they used to be in control of. What's going on with them? I got what they're doing. I heard they're making guys just to try to get guys to bring in money. Okay? Not paying any attention to the old laws and rules of La Cosa Nostra.
Yeah, no good. It's dead then. It's dead.
Yeah.
But so like I said, obviously you just mentioned your YouTube channel. So guys, the link for his YouTube channel will be below. And where's the best place for people to get the Accidental Gangster, the book, Ori, that supports you best? Is it Amazon, or have you got a website that you can give signed copies out
for
on?
autographed copies, go to my website, theaccidentalgangster.com. Otherwise, you know, I know shipping to England is quite expensive. All right, but you know, I've sold a lot of books in England, and I want to thank all you who have purchased my book over there. You know, and there's a lot in there about Joey Pyle. You're going to want to read about him. Freddie Foreman, I think, and, you know, other gangsters that I knew. And so, and hopefully, folks, maybe in the next year or so. Joey Pyle and others in England.
That'd be brilliant. Get it organised and let me know any way that I can support you. And
Actually, I will.
don't delay it.
You have John Atwood's phone number?
Yeah, I'll send it to you straight
Yeah,
after.
send it to me, would you please?
Yeah, so he's doing a lot of that stuff at the moment. So get on to him. Let's get something organised.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, Ori, I'd like to massively thank you again for the opportunity. And like I said, guys, Ori was the first person that was interviewed on the channel. So never be forgotten. Anything I can ever do to help the cause, Ori, I will. And absolute pleasure chatting to you as always. So thank you very much, my friends. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. And, you know, I got to tell you, you're one of the best at what you do. I love those clips, how you do them, the shorts. So you're awesome at what you do. God bless. All my love and respect to you, my friend.
Same to you. And yeah, all love and respect to you and your family, Ori. Thank you very much, my friend.
Take care now.
Cheers, Ori.
Bye.